Welcome back to my channel. My name is Laura Watson, and in this video I am going to share with you some quick actionable tips on how to paint spring wildflowers. One of my favorite wildflowers is the fawn lily, Erythronium organum, which is also known as the Oregon fawn lily or giant white fawn lily, and it's something that I hold near and dear to my heart every spring here on the West Coast. This is the third feature in my native plant feature series, and I like to start out all my studies with getting out into the field and taking reference photos and getting inspiration to start painting in my nature journal. It can be hard to get started, especially when you're painting a white flower on a white background, so I'm going to show you step by step some tips on how I take this from a photo to an actual painting in my nature journal. In this video, I have actually collaborated with an amazing, wonderful fellow artist. Her name is Nancy Roberts, and she is the creator behind My Nature Diaries YouTube channel. Nancy lives in a four-season zone in the US near a national park in the state of Ohio. Her content is creative nature journaling, featuring different tips and ideas to get you started with your own nature journal. So I've made this video in collaboration with Nancy, and she has made another video that sort of partners with this video. So I encourage you to check out her video and channel. It's linked in the video description below. And without further ado, let's jump into the video. Tip number 1 is the best botanical drawing hack. You can transfer a drawing directly from a printed off photo. You do not need tracing paper or light box or any special equipment. You just need a pencil and a printer. And what you do is just print off your image, and I've formatted mine to be the size of my nature journal page. You can see the lines next to the image, which are the guides to keep my sizing on point. And then you just scribble graphite on the back of the printer paper and then trace down onto your watercolor paper. So my watercolor paper is beneath the printer paper, and as I draw over the image, it is transferring a light contour drawing onto the watercolor paper. Now, this is great for a few reasons, because first off, I am getting a drawing quicker without having to erase and perfect the angles. And the second reason it works really well is because you get a faint drawing onto your watercolor paper without any erasing, and it's a nice light line that's easy to lift off with your kneaded eraser when you start painting. My second tip is to use waterproof ink in your nature journal to create more contrast and visual impact, and it also makes things quicker to paint. What I like to do is use 3 different sizes of pens. I use the largest nib for the border that I'm creating here, and you see that I'm not using a ruler. I like things to be organic and not perfectly straight. And then I use a second largest size pen for the writing, and then my smallest pen you can see here for doing the actual contour lines or line drawing of my botanical subject. And I use the 0.8 large nib for the border, 0.2 for the writing, and then a 0.05, which is the smallest nib for the actual botanical drawing. And this really helps speed things up if you don't have a lot of time to spend on pure watercolor painting. It creates a lot of contrast, and it really takes a lot of the overwhelm away for people that are just starting out with botanical painting. The brand of pens that I'm using are the waterproof Staedtler pens, but you can also use the Pigma Micron pens by Sakura. They are just as good. My third tip is to mix up all your colors in advance. There's 2 reasons this is helpful. One, you get to mix and match your colors and test them out in advance before you start painting so that you have the right color palette. And secondly, having all the colors mixed up in advance really helps for watercolor painting with techniques and just lessening the stress and not worrying about the timing of your washes and then having to mix up new colors. This is really a simple thing that you can do that will take a lot of the stress out of your painting and just make it really enjoyable. Tip number 4 is to only paint the shadows in on white flowers. I leave the white of the paper to represent the white of the flower petals. And this is a traditional botanical painting technique. Traditionally, you do not use white paint in botanical painting. I use a mix of French ultramarine and light red to create a nice transparent neutral gray, and this is the best way I can recommend for painting soft shadows on white flowers. To make things fun and take the pressure off while you're nature journaling, my tip number 5 is to use ink to create the fine and delicate veins on your botanical paintings. And of course, this is waterproof ink. As you can see, I am painting over it with watercolor. And there's quite an intricate pattern on these fawn leaf veins. Some fawn leaves have mottled brown markings and others have these delicate vein patterns. And so I painted a combination of both in the various videos I've done over this feature. But on this particular plant, they were the light, delicate veining. And I decided just to add it in with my 0.05 waterproof pen, and then just paint over with some beautiful transparent washes of mixed green colors to create this lovely little study in my nature journal. An interesting fact about fawn lilies is they get that name from the mottled brown markings found on many of the leaves of the plants. Tip number 6 is to lift out highlights on your leaves to create more contrast and dimension. This is a great way to quickly bring your leaves to life without having to spend too much time on detail. And what I like to do is use a clean, damp brush and then go over my wash, making sure that it's dry first so I don't make blooms. And I loosen up some of the paint by going over it with a clean, damp brush, the areas that I want to lift out. And then I take a clean paper towel and I press hard and sort of lift out some of that color with the paper towel to create my contrast by adding these extra highlights, which then creates more dimension and form in my leaves. And you can use this on any part of your botanical painting. You can use this on the petals or even little pieces of the anthers. Anything you feel looks flat or overpainted, try lifting out a few highlights. And lastly, tip number 7 is to add a simple wet into wet background on your botanical paintings and in your nature journal studies in general. This is a great way to add a little bit more interest and sort of anchors your illustrations. If you don't want to take the time to paint all of the background details and other plants or a background landscape, which can take a lot longer, it's a beautiful way to finish off your study. So I like to mix up some of the colors that I find in my painting that are a little bit darker like this, or you can even add in a neutral background with the botanical gray color or something that granulates like lunar violet. What I like to do is make sure that I paint this in a vignette style and not all the way to all the edges. This just gives it a soft, diffused look, and it's a style I really like for my nature journal. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up, and for more videos, subscribe to this channel and click the bell icon to make sure you get notified when I post new videos. Don't forget to check out Nancy's video from My Nature Diaries, which is linked in the video description below.